Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War is home for the holidays, and it looks like it's gonna be a white Christmas. From hell.
Powerful Nerdcast assembled!
Stay dandy, baby. Season's greetings, my friends. It's time to deck the halls with some blood and guts, because Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War is getting ready to conclude the first part of its final anime adaptation. That's right, it looks like Ichigo and his friends are going to be doing some serious training in the dimension of the Soul King. Not to mention, we finally get some crucial backstory about Ichigo's mother and father, but these episodes also prove that Kenpachi Zaraki is easily the best character of the entire franchise. Funny, action-packed, metal as hell. There's a lot to like about these episodes of Bleach, the 1,000-Year Blood War, and I'm going to talk about some of the big highlights. But before we get into that, if you're not subscribed to my channel and you're liking my content, please go ahead and do that. And of course, if you like this video right here, please make sure to hit the like button. I would really appreciate it. So all of the episodes of Bleach that I'm talking about today are sort of dealing with the aftermath after the Vandenreich had invaded Soul Society. Yamamoto had been killed, many Shinigami had been damaged, and many of them have been outright massacred. Lucky for Ichigo and his comrades, they met up with the very mysterious and very over-the-top Squad Zero, who are basically going to train them and reforge their Zanpakuto. And if their introduction was any indication, they're pretty fucking insane. But considering their power and their status, they're kind of allowed to be. The introduction of Squad Zero could have been handled a number of different ways. They could have been deadly serious about these characters, but I'm actually kind of glad they went with a more over-the-top sort of introduction for them, because after all of this death and destruction from Yhwach and the rest of the Vandenreich, we actually needed a little bit of levity. Squad Zero is not to be fucked with. They're incredibly powerful and they have some crazy abilities, but they're also basically just comedic characters. This is of course a juxtaposition to what they really are, but like I said, we needed some laughs after all of this bloodshed, and getting to see Ichigo and his friends go up to the Soul King's dimension and basically be put through what is essentially a resort is actually kind of funny. Tenjiro Karenji, whose pompadour defies all manner of logic, is there to throw them into the hot springs, which are there to essentially heal their bodies. It's also a great excuse to punch a lot of people in the face. This is all a part of Karenji's tough love, which again fits his overall greaser-style personality absolutely perfect. We then have the corpulent and delightful Kiryu Hikifune, who is there to feed Ichigo and Renji, something that actually makes them feel a little bit bad. With everybody else doing their own training and dealing with the whole recovery of Soul Society, they're basically hanging out at this place, having baths and eating good food. But this food again is going to strengthen their body. Speaking of the character of Kiryu as well, she's another one of those stereotypical anime characters who has two distinctive forms, a big jolly fat form and a super slim, super sexy lady. I've seen this trope 1,000 times and it doesn't exactly blow me away, but it is funny that she carries around massive spoons. Also, this is an anime, so all of the food just looks so damn delicious. While Tenjiro and Kiryu were instrumental to Ichigo and his friends actually recovering, I think it's the introduction of Uetsu Namaya who ends up being the most important of these characters introduced thus far, because while he is a very wacky dude who's surrounded by a harem of beautiful women, he has a pretty important role in the Soul King's dimension and Soul Society in general, as this is essentially the guy who created the Zanpakuto itself, not to mention its blank form, which goes by the name of an Asauchi. And when a Shinigami uses it, they're able to imprint their very own spiritual pressure onto it, and this is what sort of allows them to awaken their Zanpakuto spirit. And seeing as how Renji's has been destroyed and Ichigo needs a brand new one, this seems like the perfect opportunity to try and get theirs back. However, this is the Bleach anime series, and things are not going to be that simple, as Ichigo and Renji are literally going to be dropped into a hellish pit of death, where they're going to have to battle against these Asauchi for a number of days in order to essentially show that they are worthy of having their new swords reforged. And the actual look of these Asauchi were disturbing in the manga. They're just as fucking creepy here. They're really weird. Do the eyeballs have to be mouths? I'm also guessing that the harem, which is utilized by Uetsu Namaya, are also basically made up of these Asauchi. Maybe he's imprinted his very own spiritual pressure on them, basically just displaying that this guy is over the top crazy and super fucking horny. Then again, this is Bleach, and the creator of the series really loves making sexy ladies. And I have to admit, he's pretty damn good at it. After 3 days of getting their asses stomped, it looks like Ichigo and Renji are going to be allowed to leave the Pit of Death. The problem is, Ichigo is not going to receive the same treatment as Renji. While Renji is a natural Shinigami, Ichigo is kind of different, and this is all going to begin to snowball as the story continues, as we get to learn the true meaning behind all of his powers. Uetsu decides to end up basically sending him back home, which is going to lead into the next major part of the story, which is basically a nice segue to learn about what really happened when Ichigo's mother and father met for the first time, and how this was going to change his life forever. It also gives us a chance to see Ikumi again, and I'm completely okay with that. But finally, after years of waiting, we finally get Ichigo and his father Isshin finally telling him about what his whole deal is with him being a Shinigami and how it directly connects to his mother. And this is a nice segue to a flashback. So we already know that Isshin is like a former Shinigami, but we actually get to learn that he's actually a former captain, and he was originally a part of Squad 10, working directly with everybody's favorite characters, Toshiro Hitsugaya and Rangiku Matsumoto, who just so happened to be his former lieutenant. Isshin makes his way to the human world where he's investigating a very powerful hollow, which I have to say probably has the coolest design of any hollow that I've seen from the series, and if you've been following Bleach for a long time, it's going to look very familiar. In fact, it looks almost identical to the form that Ichigo is using in his battle with Arukiora all the way back in the Arrancar arc. This hollow goes by the name of White. It has that name because it does have a distinctive white mask, while the rest of its body is completely pitch black. What's also really unique about this hollow is that it's actually an experimental creature which was created by none other than Aizen. And we also get to see a lot of him in these flashbacks as well, as this is also when he started working with Gin Ichimaru as well as Kaname Tosen. White is not your typical hollow. He was created from the bodies of various Shinigami, which of course makes him very powerful and allows him to fight in a completely different manner. Also, it gives us an excuse to finally see Isshin fighting and using his Zanpakuto, which is fire-based. And also, I just want to say this, everything here looks fucking incredible. I liked this stuff in the manga. It wasn't blowing me away, but I will say that atmospherically speaking, the look of everything, the use of music and color and shadows really amplified this entire scene. The fact that it's raining and that it's dark, I never even envisioned the scene this way in the manga, and it allows me to see it in a completely different way, and it also allowed me to appreciate it a lot more. This scene is also a more proper introduction to Ichigo's mother, Masaki Kurosaki. We've already seen some flashbacks of her previously in the series, but this is our deepest dive into who her character truly is. And we get to see that she was actually going to be forcibly married to Ryuken, something that she didn't particularly want to do, but because of some weird, proper Quincy bloodline crap, that's basically what's going down. And like her husband and eventual child, she has a sense of justice, and when she senses that there's a hollow out there attacking, she decides to actually join Isshin in the battle, much to the anger of all of the other Quincy within her very own special group, as she has to be kept safe, as she's sort of the last chance for this bloodline to continue. But that's not going to stop her. She makes her way into the city as Isshin is battling against White, which again, like I said, just looks fucking gnarly. And while I love Isshin in this battle and it's just really exciting and over the top and just looks so damn cool, I think Masaki is the one who really steals the show during this moment. The main reason being, of course, is that we finally get to see her Quincy abilities for the very first time, and the fact that she actually utilizes them to allow White to get close to her so that she can take him out in one big shot. Again, this is a scene that in the manga version looked okay. Here, it looks downright incredible and so damn brutal. It's also a moment that demonstrates that yes, this is very much the mother of Ichigo. She definitely displays a lot of his personality in the scene, allowing White to get close to her, bite down on her shoulder so she can take him out in one point-blank attack directly to the head. It is an amazing moment. But of course, this hollow has another special ability. Essentially, when it is severely damaged, it can self-destruct. And right before it can take out Masaki, luckily Isshin is able to get in there and block most of the attack, but also getting damaged in the process. And this is also where we have both of the characters meet for the very first time, and almost immediately, they are smitten with one another, and it's just damned adorable. What I really love about it is that it's sort of like showing that Shinigami and Quincy can get along. Now, this is just the beginning of some important revelations revelations for Ichigo, but he's going to learn a lot more about his mother and how it ties directly into his overall abilities in the next coming episodes, which is also presumably where this part of the Thousand Year Blood War is going to end before we move to the next part of the series. But still, I thought it was just another one of those scenes that just blew the manga version out of the water. No contest, if you're gonna consume Bleach, I honestly think that this is the best way to do it. And these episodes are absolutely crucial watching if you want to have some more understanding of how the background of the series works and ultimately where it's going to be heading next. And I loved all of that. But you know what I loved more? All of the badass shit with Kenpachi Zaraki. I've made it very clear in some of my previous Bleach videos that I think Kenpachi is a great character. He's kind of one note in many senses, as he's essentially just a battle-hardened barbarian of badassery, but man, I love what they're doing with his character in this arc, and they didn't even have to do it. I mean, Kenpachi is not exactly the most important character in the series, but he's most definitely a fan favorite, and I think the creator of Bleach knows that, as he finally decided to give him some real big development in the final arc of the series, and a lot of that is actually going to be some training. And believe it or not, his trainer is going to be none other than Retsu Unohana. Now, when I was reading this for the first time in the manga, I was a little shocked, because Unohana is one of those characters who's always just sort of been in the background. She's never really done all that much. Her entire purpose was essentially to be a healer. She had a really weird Zanpakuto that would transform into a giant manta ray, and that was it. That was like my full acknowledgement of her character. But this arc makes it very clear that there's a lot more to Unohana than meets the eye, and that's because apparently the name Kenpachi is not just a name, it's a title which actually belongs to the most powerful and strong Shinigami in Soul Society, and before Zaraki, there was Unohana, or as she went by her original name, Yachiru. Now, this is already pretty freaking strange. The fact that she has the name of the lieutenant of Kenpachi Zaraki is already a little strange, but also getting to learn that Unohana herself has not always been the soft-spoken Nurse Joy that we've always known. She's actually always been kind of a, well, serial killer. Unohana is a bloodthirsty, cold-hearted bitch, and she wants you to know it. She also happens to be incredibly badass. We get to learn that essentially she was the original Kenpachi, a battle-hardened warrior who is equal to no one. That is until one day she met a young Zaraki who decided to challenge her in battle, and actually was the very first person to ever wound her, leaving a scar on her chest. That's when she made the revelation that she was no longer the most powerful or had the most potential in Soul Society. It was this brand new child who had such rage and power that she needed to channel. However, this meeting was also the greatest weakness for Zaraki, as Zaraki himself was also a character who craved the thrill of the fight, the battle, battling to the death. However, when he actually found someone who could potentially actually be stronger than him and he immediately defeated her, it sort of warped his view on what it meant to be the strongest, and it also allowed him to subconsciously hold back on his very own power, effectively weakening him throughout the course of the entire series. There's a reason why he's incredibly powerful, while every major battle he's had in the series, he's narrowly made it through, and that's because he sort of put shackles on himself. And Unohana is going to remove those shackles in the most bloody, badass fashion. Essentially, Unohana is going through this big training sequence with Zaraki in these episodes, and it's nothing short of one of the best battles of the entire series. I mean, it's just over the top, it's insane, sword fighting, blood flying all over the place, all sorts of badass. It also allows us to see the character of Unohana in a completely different way than we've never actually seen before, and this is instrumental in bringing out Zaraki's true power, as she is going to continuously kill him and heal him, bringing him to the point of death and bringing him right back, as she knows he's always walking that fine line of what it means to give it his all the entire time, and the only way to do that is to forcibly just murder his ass. We also finally get to see her Bankai in action for the very first time, the Minazuki, which is just, oh, I'm telling you, this is one of the coolest Bankai that I've ever seen. This is one of the most visually amazing Bankai that I've ever seen, not only transforming her blade into blood itself, but also allowing the entire environment to change as she's surrounded by cascading blood.
Oh, darn, that's awesome!
Her sword itself essentially transforms into like a giant blood whip. She can move it around really fast, but it also allows her to essentially constantly heal herself as well as Zaraki, which is instrumental in her actually training him. And throughout the course of this battle, Zaraki just gets fucked up. He just gets absolutely cut to shreds. And I really love the visual of him getting to see like his internal skeleton. This can be taken one of two different ways. Really, he is actually being damaged all that much, or they really want us to get to the deeper core of who Kenpachi is as a person, which is in many ways kind of a living personification of death. And after presumably what are days of fighting, eventually Zaraki is able to overcome and defeat Unohana. Not just defeating her, but outright killing her. And I have a couple of issues with this. I mean, yes, I understand that it's sort of a stepping stone for showing how far Zaraki has come, as well as allowing him to finally communicate with his Zanpakuto for the first time, something which does start to happen in these episodes. But I feel that killing off the character of Unohana is very bad for the future of Soul Society. They need strong warriors to go up against the Vondenreich, and Unohana allowing herself to be killed seems like they're basically crutching themselves a little bit. And I think that's not exactly a good thing. I mean, I understand the deeper meaning behind it all, the thematic thing of him having to kill her to basically awaken his true power, but I just feel like, no, we need all the strong people we can get, don't let her die. That being said, holy shit, this entire training sequence with Unohana was one of the best moments of the entire series and one of the coolest looking fights that I've ever seen. Again, taking what was done in the manga version and just elevating it to a brand new level. A visual tour de force, one of my favorite moments from the entire franchise now as far as I'm concerned. It was something that I got some mild enjoyment out of when I was reading it in the manga. Here, I was just gushing the entire time. I absolutely fucking loved it. So the first half of Bleach: The Thousand-Year Blood War is going to end on presumably some more backstory as we get ready to move into the next portion of the series, where things are really going to pick up. I mean, we're talking lots of action. There's a lot of other things they're going to build up to, like the fact that the episode does end with Jugrim Haschwalth actually meeting up with Ishida Oryu, which already alone is going to raise a lot of questions, as it's very obvious they probably want to bring him into the Vondenreich. And I don't see Uryu actually being a part of this. If anything, it's just going to be an excuse for him to get closer to the enemy, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also, it's just too late to do like a Sasuke-style storyline for a character like that, so yeah, it's pretty obvious this is all going to be a part of... his secret plan, as Ishida is definitely more of the brains than the brawn. But still, it was another visually striking scene getting to see that at the very end. But really, everything that was delivered in this episode was just great. I mean, all these episodes were just sort of a really fantastic mixture of everything that makes Bleach really awesome, which include the characters, the world, the lore, not to mention just really visually awesome fight scenes, something that the series is definitely known for because, well, it is a shonen battle anime series. But like I said in my previous reviews of Bleach: The Thousand-Year Blood War anime, this is elevating the manga in the best way possible. And again, there are definitely some cracks in the armor. There are some things that don't necessarily work. There are some moments that look a little sloppy. But for the most part, everything here is pretty much on point. And if you're a Bleach fan, you kind of need to check it out. Whether you strictly follow the anime version or you read the manga and you're just curious how they're doing this adaptation, this is definitely worth watching. There are some great moments here which are just visually some of the best stuff that the series has ever delivered. Not to mention the growth of a lot of the main characters and even the side characters themselves. I'm very excited for that. I can't wait to see the rest of Squad Zero, in particular Ichibe, and I'm very excited to see more of the backstory of Masaki and Isshin. Not to mention, I just cannot wait to see when they finally let Kenpachi off of the leech and we finally... I also just cannot wait to see Kenpachi Zaraki in his next major battles, as we're finally going to see him fight in a way that we've never actually seen before. So yes, I loved these episodes a lot. Even with some of the weaker moments, which really ties down more to like artwork and animation, for the most part, these episodes are great. I really had no complaints from them. I'm giving all of them a 5 out of 5. I think that these were perfect adaptations of their mangas, and they just continue to blow me away with their quality. And if it means I get to see more of Kenpachi Zaraki in action, then yes, I'm definitely along for the ride. So yeah, I'm really loving all of this stuff. So clearly, I'm in love with the series right now, but what about you? Your thoughts may actually differ. You might hate it. You might love it more. Please tell me what you thought about these episodes in the comments section below. Any favorite moments? What about the training with Kenpachi? What about Ichigo and his entire backstory with his mother? As someone who only watches the anime, that might be you, are you being shocked by these revelations? Do you have any thoughts or theories about what's going to happen next? And what do you hope to see from the rest of the final season of the Bleach anime series? So there it is, my friends. Thank you again for watching. Have a great holiday, and I'll see you all next time. And as always, stay down there, baby.